All right, welcome back. David, I hear you have something for us to look at next.
Yeah, it's I was working on the A11Y stuff, so if we could pop over to that branch.
Is that the Sonar Cube branch?
That is the Sonar Cube branch, the addition/Sonar Cube,
Hey, look at that. All right.
and you'll need to pull the latest because I just pushed some stuff up.
So, is that not it there?
Switching over to use better alt tag.
Should be, yeah, that would be the 30th, which is today.
All right,
See,
cool.
while we were having that useless discussion, David was actually doing work. 4 minutes.
Yeah,
Are we looking at
that's
our?
why I was so distracted. So I was updating 8.15, as you see, and it matches the one of the areas in the 400 to kind of add the thumbnail and the title and such in. But when I am looking at the code, I'm getting where did it go?
Before this is a
On the Reddit search component
Mm.
TS
So yeah,
line 60.
John may just put the kibosh of whatever fun you thought you were going to have on this step.
Okay.
See the word legacy there after 815?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we don't keep them up to date. It just means that it has been de-emphasized and pushed way down in the material and probably should go away at some point.
Yeah, it's usually when we find a different way to. Usually, a new best practice comes out and makes one of our old steps kind of obsolete, but we
hmm
still. There are still a lot of people who are using this practice in their code, so we leave a step in there that we can reference every now and then.
I honestly don't remember what this one did differently from what
I
we're
don't
doing
either.
now.
This I believe was the old syntax for RxJS. If I can find it.
Yeah, because it does dot map directly.
Or
Yeah.
it's up
Yeah.
on it, so.
So yeah, this is not one that you need to worry about.
Okay, there was some changes in Bitbucket that I saw that had been made, and I don't remember if I had made them or if those were made when I think
got
you
the
and
line
Kyle had gone
21
through.
is what you're talking about, where you actually put the post title in there. And
Yeah, so in the 400 level one, it used to just say URL, and but now in order to put a relevant alt tag in, we added the thumbnail and the title as an object, and so we're using that to populate those things. Um, I'm getting
reason step around.
some red squiggles in the component TS,
I mean,
and it may be because it's using that legacy syntax.
yeah, it's almost certainly because of the legacy syntax. And Bill, to your point of like, is there any reason to keep this around? Yeah, literally anyone using Angular prior to version 6 is doing this.
But in class, I I certainly haven't ever brought this up to show to people. By this point, where somebody would be like, "Oh, I still have dots in front of all my operators," we have long since covered that topic. Going into detail on an example this complicated with the legacy syntax, I don't see the value in that in the class material. It also means that we got to keep this crap up to date, like David has done here. He's actually had to go on. He's gone in and spent his brain on keeping this step up to date that we should never actually see in class. So I mean, I'm arguing for deletion of this step.
This may be legacy enough to be gone, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's not like we don't ever bring up the old RxJS syntax. Paul's right. It wasn't that long ago that we were doing it this way, but we wouldn't use this legacy step to demonstrate that. We would very quickly say, oh, what you're seeing is this change in syntax that happened from this version to this version. We do a very quick demo, probably on the fly, like just showing what the syntax would look like, but I would never pull this up to demonstrate it in class.
You and I
Yeah.
could, and actually, literally everyone in the video right now could. We've got several younger instructors who, didn't live through those
But
days.
what utility is there in this example, even for helping them? What are they going to do with this?
At the very least, they get the question in class. They, send the flare up to the mothership. We say, go look at this step.
But
Our
does
instructors
this,
will instantly grok it
Well,
and be
then
able to match
will
it up.
they though? Because
Yeah.
this isn't a very obvious
Should
thing if you don't know about it.
Yeah, I would take the first step that we introduce pipeable operators into.
Throw a comment in there.
Put a legacy put a legacy step equivalent to that, and maybe keep that up to date.
I mean, I would definitely accept that as over straight deletion without leaving something behind.
I mean,
Like,
I
I'm
thought
not
that we
opposed to that at all.
had something like that. Like, I don't think I think this is not the only legacy step where we use this syntax.
The old
I mean,
cell
we
operators.
can look.
Like,
we can-
I would double check that.
By the way, David, I know this is probably not where you intended to go. Was there anything
Yep.
else you wanted to talk about in this particular example that is different from where we've gone?
Well, yeah, it like I said, it may be a case that since it is using the legacy stuff, that I'm getting basically a compiler in IntelliJ is just throwing the red squiggles in.
Actually, I'm curious
So it
to see
may not be an issue.
what the difference is, because I wouldn't expect that the difference in RxJS versions to affect anything like in the template. So I'm curious to see why it worked. I'm guessing the reason it worked
Can we share
in the new
David's
version.
screen?
Well, I was just going to say I'm betting the reason it worked in the new version and not in the legacy version is we've made other iterations on the new step that we didn't make on the legacy step, and they've
that's
diverged in other
yeah,
ways.
yeah. We have
Yeah.
iterated on this since then. You're
Yeah,
right.
if you look at Reddit search component TS, not the service, scroll down.
Wow.
Oh
I
man,
don't
Yeah.
like that.
Yep.
flashbacks.
Yeah, this has been drastically changed.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
using a
Keep going.
one thing.
So that line 57,
Taps.
the val subreddit, val search are both giving me red squiggles of argument type t observable any is not assignable to parameter type string, and I am not sure if that's because of the change I made to make the new objects, but I would think that those would be just like that is what's being passed in.
Yeah,
So
I mean, honestly,
Yeah, I just wouldn't update
don't
it.
want to care about this. I want this to go away. David, you're right to bring this up,
Yeah.
but I think the end result is we figure out some way to mollify Paul and then delete this step.
Now, if you want to if you want to make this step go away, the answer is take step 303.
303.
No,
302.
where do we introduce it?
Well, 303 is the completed version of that little story.
Yeah, well, I would say take the first time we encounter actually.
I see what you're saying. That's
First time that we encounter .pipe is in step 302. So dupe 302, put legacy in front of it, and show it without the .pipe, and then you can go and delete the other one.
All right, question on that. I teach 300 to 303 as an arc, like
Sure.
it just goes straight through, and usually, like maybe let them workshop at the beginning and at the end of that. So where do we want to potentially like go off on a slight detour to talk about the old syntax?
So
I like 302 because you know most people teach them in order, or I would say most instructors teach them in order, and this is where they get the question and they flip over to it. You don't teach them in order, but you could easily say,
No,
down here, and then
I
you could
teach them in
explain
order,
this.
but
You-
I teach them kind of straight through.
Yeah, but you're capable. You could easily pull up an example, regardless of which step it was, and say, see, here's where you would do this instead.
Yeah, I'm not super worried about this particular one. I'm just wondering, does it make sense to talk about this like, oh, and by the way, if you're using an earlier version of Angular, then this is going to look a little bit different. Here's the place we landed with the old syntax. Or does it make sense to do that along the way?
yeah, no, I think the answer is to shuttle this off to the side, bury it where no one sees it, and it becomes a here is the place to go dig it up if you end up needing to reference it.
So you want
I'm
to
with
have
you
the
on that.
example match the earliest place that we actually use observable operators.
Yep. And here's a story I'm playing in my head. During our numerous pre-class calls with the with the various clients, one of them says, "Oh, we're on Angular version 4." And the instructor, when they hear that, if they're one of us that has been doing this a lot longer, they know right away, version 4, that's prior to yada yada yada. Um, and they're going to be prepared to just walk right on through that, and will never even need to bring up the alternative one because they're going to do the song and dance just as part of their normal
Right.
thing. For the instructors that are newer, that didn't necessarily live through that transition, they're going to get in there. Someone's likely going to bring it up if they didn't notice it in the first place, and then at that point, it's going to happen here with the dot pipe. Someone's going to say, "We're on 4 and we can't use dot pipe," and then that's when they can look over or they can contact one of us
I
and
think
get
I
that
already know the
redirection.
example of this, but since this example is so simple, does it make sense to simply put a little block comment in here that says, by the way, if you're on a version of Angular earlier than whatever, then it's going to look like this instead.
I
I
would
don't
I would
want
be
to
okay
throw
with
that
that.
into. I don't want to throw that into 98% of classes that don't care about
Yeah,
it.
I'm kind of
Yeah,
that's kind of sad. I think I already know the example.
I
the
don't
answer.
think we do that with anything else legacy, and I wouldn't do it with this either. So
How much will this example actually change? Because are we going to change the add injectable stuff?
I
Well,
don't think
yeah,
so.
If we're talking about earlier versions of Angular, well, there's other things that are different now too.
Well,
I kind of want. Well,
the point of the legacy is not about the earlier version of Angular. The point of it's actually about the earlier version of RxJS. They just happen to be version mashed together, and this is about showing how you would do RxJS prior to.
but
Are
on
we
the
going
to
to
his
be able
point,
to?
are you going to be on a version of RxJS? Are you going to be on an old version of RxJS, but a version of Angular that lets you do add injectable?
I mean,
With provided
you're not
in
going to be able to run it. No.
Okay, so that's kind of where I was
But
going.
is it
Like,
going to make
yeah.
sense to even bring up that example that has new stuff here and old stuff here? I feel like we're retrofitting legacy stuff now.
yeah, there was like one single major version of Angular where you could use either syntax. We're beyond that now. So this version, the example we think we're building, we're not even gonna be able to test.
So you don't want to know my answer. It means, oh, we're missing some legacy steps.
Yeah, let's hold Paul down and beat him until he stops talking. No,
My answer is this is if you have to teach if you're on a call and you have to teach I no, maybe I'm being too cavalier about this, but if you're on a call and you find out you have to teach an Angular 4 class, I'm sorry, there's not something just in our
Well,
box
it's not
that
an
you can
Angular
pull
4
up.
class. It's
like
about
a public class
equipping
with
the.
people.
Well, no, it's about equipping our instructors to have the material they need to be able to relate to the various kind of clients that they're going to end up in.
Here's the answer. Instructor notes. We can't just ignore them. Instructor notes have to exist. They have to be consumed.
Oh, hold my beer, Bill.
I know, but this is exactly the sort of thing that would go in the instructor notes. So the comment that I was just talking about, like putting right here in the example, no, everybody's right. It doesn't belong here in the example, but it damn sure does belong in the instructor notes, where it's like, if you have people that ask about, like, wait a minute, this pipe thing, where did this come from? They're referring to an earlier version of RxJS. This changed at this point. Here's a link that shows the old syntax. We don't have anything about it in our material because we literally can't run this code anymore. Angular, and as of its current version, which is what we're always teaching against, doesn't support it anymore. This is where you have to teach instructors what to do, and that's the instructor notes.
Yeah, I think that's fine because that does give us a maintained location for us to point our instructors to. So,
I'm sold. Delete this step.
all right, you get that instructor comment in, and I will get right
Okay.
on.
Hey, David.
So, what is the instructor comment you would like in? I've got the file open.
Let me see here.
You have your work cut out for you, David.
Hey Kyle, cut this.
Hey,
part
I'm
of
just
the
adding
video.
this comment, not the whole thing for observables.
Well, I mean, we've got hopefully some. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
got some stuff in here. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out like which goes in which bucket.
Yeah, I think our original intention of explanation versus instructor has not worked out.
Well,
So-
what was the explanation was going to be published,
Yeah,
and
it's-
instructor is not.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a good use of that. I don't think you need to publish this part because again,
well, it was
Or do
the
you?
actual split was explanation is like Like you could take this and you could put it in a book.
Yeah.
The instruction was, here are nuances about our curriculum
Right.
and our teaching stance on this particular topic that you might want to be aware of. Here's some like, weird bits and fiddly bits with this step, or
Is it fair to say that if something could be crafted to go in the explanation instead of the instructor notes, it probably should?
yes.
Because I can tell you, there have been times when I've waxed loquacious in the instructor notes, and like, I really would prefer that more people get to see this one day, as opposed to the 3 people who actually read the instructor notes. So, David, I would say that for this one, if there's a way for this to make sense in the explanation, put it in there, because otherwise, this instructor file will literally just have this one note in it, which seems kind of silly.
Okay.
But that said, if it doesn't make sense to go in explanation, then sure. Instructor notes have been kind of a grab bag of oh by the ways, and this isn't oh by the way. Did we beat this one to death, Paul?
I think so.